Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the White House. My name is Alexia Kelly, and I'm Deputy Director in the White House Office for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. And on behalf of our office, I want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today. We're honored to have all of you with us to celebrate these 9 champions of change in Catholic education. And we're really looking forward to today's program. We have a full schedule in which we'll have the opportunity to hear from our champions directly. I want to offer a special thanks to the National Catholic Education Association, Karen Ristow and her team for their help and partnership, and also Marie Powell with the Secretariat of Education at USCCB for their help on this. And we want to welcome all of you, many leaders and champions in Catholic education and schools as well, for joining us here today. And special welcome to guests from the Archdiocese of Washington, the Diocese of Arlington, and the Diocese of Baltimore. Thank you so much. We've been really proud and honored to work with our colleagues in the Office of Public Engagement. This is their program, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to Aaron Hannigan, who will get us started. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a good response. As Alexia said, my name is Aaron Hannigan. I'm here at the White House in the Office of Public Engagement, and I work on the Champions of Change program, and we're really excited to have you all here today to honor these important leaders. On a personal note, I'm really excited to be here to honor these champions. I come from a family of Catholic educators and attended a Catholic university as well, so I'm really excited to hear their stories and learn about the work that they do in their communities. I also want to encourage everyone here today and viewing online to check out more about our champions by going to www.whitehouse.gov/champions. Again, that's www.whitehouse.gov/champions. Now, before we begin our discussion with our champions, we have a few more speakers. The first up is my boss, John Carson. John is the Deputy Assistant to the President and Director of the Office of Public Engagement. John?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the White House. I will be very brief. I just have 2 things. I'd first like to tell you a little bit about the Champions of Change program, and then I have an ask for everyone watching online here in the audience and of our champions as well. You know, in the United States, and you heard the President talk about this a little bit last night at the State of the Union, there's a lot of issues that are being debated. There's a lot of things being talked about. But one thing this President and this administration understands is that whatever is going on here in Washington, every day across this country, there are millions of people, just like our champions here today, who are making their communities stronger, who are lifting people up, who are acting as examples and making positive change happen in their own communities. And that's what we want to celebrate with Champions of Change. We've had different themes that we've celebrated. We had people who were working in their communities to prevent domestic violence. We had one of the funner ones. We had a group of chefs who partnered with a local school district to implement the ideas of Let's Move at that school district. And however, very, very few of the themes we celebrate, I think, are as important as the group of champions that we have here today, who, as you hear their stories, and I've read them all, are so concretely and directly making people's lives better, serving as examples, and making their communities a better place. So with that, here's my ask. Please help tell their stories. Please help tell your story. If you're watching online, if you're here in the audience, and to our champions, we've often noticed people who are making change like you are in your communities are often quite humble, reticent to tell others about sometimes not just the accomplishments, but how tough it has been. But what we have seen with this program, what I think we all know, is that when you do tell your story, when you do show that it can be done, that you can be part of making your community better, you inspire others to do the same thing. So that's our ask. Whether you blog about it, tweet about it, write about it, tell someone in the church parking lot on Sunday, please help share your own story and share the stories of our champions of change who are here today. With that, I would like to introduce someone who has been a partner of ours at the Office of Public Engagement, who I know is well known to many of you, the Director of the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives and Community Partnerships, Joshua Dubois.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on, good afternoon. an exciting time to be honoring champions of change for Catholic education. We are so delighted to have you all here. We've been looking forward to this day for a long time, and just really an honor to be on the stage with folks who are impacting kids and indeed entire communities all across our country. On behalf of the president, I want to thank you as well. He obviously had a little bit of a speech last night, and so now is traveling around talking about that speech around the country, but he did ask me to do something when I told him about today's event. Been working for the president for a number of years now, so when he asks you to do something, you have to do it. So just bear with me, please. Sorry. If everyone could raise your hands like this, please. Sorry. In the back there, too, please. Thanks. Okay. Could you move them like this, please? I promised President Obama I'd shake everyone's hand at today's Champions of Change event. I'm sorry, guys, but I did my job. Listen, we are really thrilled to be here with you to honor 9 champions of change in Catholic education. And I'm honored to introduce these champions in just a moment, and then we're going to hear directly from them in our panel conversations. So I run the Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships and our 13 partnership centers across government. And our job is to come alongside and support local faith-based and nonprofit organizations who are serving people in need. We do that on hunger issues, on veterans issues, on foreign aid and development. And there's no more important point and area of service than around education, of course. And that's why we're so honored to have these champions here with us today to talk about how they are improving the educational futures of our young people. In fact, Catholic schools are the largest faith-based schooling group in the country. Along with other private schools, Catholic schools have been recognized as national treasures by our Department of Education, and not only important to the people who use them, but important to the common good of the nation as a whole. Catholic schools step up to the plate on behalf of... Amen to that. Catholic schools step up to the plate on behalf of all children, Catholic and non-Catholic school children alike. One of my favorite stories is that in the days and months following Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, Catholic schools responded quickly and compassionately to all victims. Many Catholic schools voluntarily enrolled large numbers of students displaced from public and private schools. Catholic schools were the first schools to reopen in New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina. There are 201 Catholic colleges and universities educating the next generation of leaders and innovators. A number of these are also providing programs in teacher education and school leadership for Catholic pre-K through 12th grade school communities in order to sustain the promise of a high-quality education. In fact, although there are 9 folks here, we actually have 10 Catholic school champions being honored today. Father William Leahy, president of Boston College, is also one of our champions, but was not able to join us in person. You can read about his great work at BC and his creation of the Roche Center for Catholic Education at whitehouse.gov/champions. Congrats to the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities and their president, Greg Lucy, for the Jesuit College recognitions today. Let's give them a round of applause as well. I also want to emphasize that next week is Catholic Schools Weeks. Yay! From January 29th through February 5th, Catholic schools around the country will observe this week and really celebrate the importance of Catholic schools to our nation as a whole. And that's why we wanted to have this event today, and we were planning it intentionally preceding Catholic Schools Week so that we can spread the word about how much Catholic schools mean to our country. Now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to the White House Champions of Change for Catholic Education. First, we have Bertha Castaneda from Washington, D.C. Bertha is a senior at Archbishop Carroll High School in Washington. She maintains a 4.0 plus, I don't know what the plus means, but somehow that's above an A, GPA in the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, one of the toughest college prep curriculums available worldwide. She's involved in almost every facet of school life, taking advantage of extracurricular activities as diverse as lacrosse, stage and crew, and National Honor Society. Let's give Bertha another round of applause. Next, we have Reverend Charles L. Curry from Washington, D.C. Father Charles Curry has spent his entire professional life in higher education as a faculty member, administrator, president, and most recently he served as president of the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities, the AJCU, serving 28 Jesuit colleges and university institutions. Father Curry has encouraged a commitment to education for justice and co-founded the student-led Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice, the Ignatian Solidarity Network, and the Jesuit Commons. Let's give Father Curry a round of applause. Our next champion is Reverend John P. Foley, S.J., from Chicago, Illinois. After serving the Jesuit missions in Peru for 34 years, working primarily in education, Father Foley returned to Chicago in 1995 to collaborate in establishing the Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. Father Foley established the Cristo Rey Jesuit High School in 1995 and served as its founding president. He later became president of the Cristo Rey Network, which includes 24 similarly modeled Catholic high schools. He is presently the chair emeritus and chief mission officer of the network. Let's give Father Foley a round of applause. Our next champion is Sister Ginny Jones from New Orleans, Louisiana. Sister Jones has been a sister of the Holy Family for 42 years. She has served as a school principal for 27 years at various Catholic schools and is from the great city of New Orleans. Let's give her a round of applause. Our next champion is Peter Krebs from Larchmont, New York. Peter has been the president of All Hallows High School for the past 9 years. As president, he serves as the CEO of the school and works closely with the principal and board of directors to maintain the standards of excellence that have become associated with All Hallows. In between his years of service at All Hallows, Peter worked at the Archdiocese of New York, where he created the Office of Educational Development. Let's give Peter Krebs a round of applause. Our next champion is Annette Mickey Lentz from Indianapolis, Indiana. Annette has served the Archdiocese of Indianapolis as a teacher, principal, and administrator of the Office of Catholic Education for 50 years. Since 2009, she has served the Archdiocese of Indianapolis as chancellor. She created the Mother Theodore Catholic Academies, a consortium of schools to strengthen Catholic education in urban areas. Let's give Mickey Lentz a round of applause. Next, we have Sister Rosa Maria Ruiz from Tucson, Arizona. Sister Ruiz has served Catholic education for over 50 years. She has been superintendent of Catholic schools for the Diocese of Tucson in Arizona since 1997. Her tenure has seen the opening of 3 new high schools and an elementary school, and she created an endowment and directed the development of each school's strategic plan. Let's give her a round of applause. Our next champion is Yvonne Schwab from Columbus, Ohio. Yvonne has been the principal at St. James the Less Catholic School for the last 8 years. She received the 2011 National Catholic Education Association Distinguished Principal Award. Ms. Schwab helped St. James the Less Catholic School become a model school, doubling the population, raising test scores, engaging students in service, and embodying inclusion and diversity. Let's give Yvonne Schwab a round of applause. And last but certainly not least, Joseph Womack from Seattle, Washington. As the executive director of the Fulcrum Foundation for the past 8 years, Joe Womack has worked tirelessly on behalf of at-risk students in Catholic schools in jeopardy of closing. Under his leadership, the Fulcrum Foundation has raised $60 million, which has enabled over 10,000 low-income students to attend Catholic schools in Western Washington. Let's give Joe Womack a round of applause. And then finally, one big round of applause for all of our champions of change. And we're going to hear from them in just a moment, but first it is my honor to introduce Roberto Rodriguez. Roberto is the President's point person for education policy here in the White House and has been working closely with the Catholic school community for a number of years, dating back to his service with Senator Kennedy on the Senate Education Committee. Let's welcome Roberto. Thank you.
Hi, well, good afternoon. It's really an honor and privilege to welcome you here to the White House. I wanted to stop by to say hello and to congratulate all of our champions today. On the behalf of the White House Domestic Policy Council, I want to thank all of our champions and all of the leaders that are gathered here today across Catholic education. Those of you who are here in person as well as those of you who are joining us virtually. We really thank you for your commitment day in and day out to our families and to our children. You heard the President last night in his State of the Union address talk about building a strong America and building a strong economy. And key to that mission is to build a strong education system and make sure that each and every one of our young people, beginning actually from early childhood education, spanning all the way through elementary and secondary education and higher education, receive the opportunity and the support they need to really reach their full potential, to prepare fully for college and careers, and most importantly, to prepare for civic life and for full participation in our democracy. So our champions today are doing that work day in and day out in classrooms, on campuses across our country. With over 2 million students attending nearly 7,000 elementary and secondary Catholic schools in America, our administration wants to say thank you for your contributions that you've made and that you'll continue to make to the strength of our democracy, to the educational landscape, to the lives of students, children, and their families really around the country. We know that this work is not easy work. It's often done with limited budgets and with resources. But as evidenced in the testimonials today and through our champions, we know that our Catholic education system really approaches all of these challenges with great innovation and solutions to meet those financial challenges and to make sure that our students get what they need to be able to succeed. You've stepped up to the plate time and time again. That goes all the way back to following natural disasters like Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, where our Catholic schools were first responders to families, to students, to really help them get back on their feet. We know that our Catholic education system is a lifeline of support for neighborhoods and families that are struggling around our country. And we're honored today to be able to have the opportunity to say thank you, to recognize your successes and your achievements, and to welcome you here to the White House. So it's my pleasure to welcome you, and we want to thank you all for being here and for all that you do day in, day out to make a difference for America's students and families. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for our first speakers. We want to really get into our first panel now. So if you bear with us for just a second, we're going to shuffle some of our folks off, and then we'll get started right away. I'm pleased to invite Reverend Brenda Girton Mitchell, who will be moderating the first panel. She is the director of the Office of the Faith-Based and Community Partnership at the Department of Education. So with that, I'll let her begin the first panel.
Aaron, I'm going to break in for just 1 second, an unscheduled break-in. Just one note, one of the key reasons, in fact, the reason we are all here today, in addition to the President's commitment to Catholic education, is a wonderful member of our staff who pulled this all together. I'm going to have to head out and then come back, but I want to make sure we acknowledge her, especially because she's not going to be that mobile because of her broken foot. But Alexia Kelly is here with us. She's, again, the Deputy Director of Faith-Based Initiatives, and it worked in the USCCB and then founded Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good, and has truly worked to connect this administration with Catholics around the country. So I just want to acknowledge Alexia.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is always exciting when I have an opportunity to represent Secretary Duncan and the U.S. Department of Education as a former elementary school teacher, and being able to connect all of these different lives that I have been blessed to live. And it's also an honor when we get a chance to just pause from the everyday stuff we all have to deal with and count some of the blessings that are living among us. And we sometimes take for granted the things that people do. This gives us a chance to just stop and say thank you in a very special way. And even as we thank these 9 champions that are being lifted up, it's also a way that we say thank you to all of you, because we are interrelated in all of the work that we do to make sure that we're creating a culture of success for our children and creating an educational system regardless of what the platform is, where every young person has an opportunity to get a quality education. And Catholic education, in Secretary Duncan's words, is a key part of the landscape of education for the United States of America. So we come today to say thank you and to say congratulations, and I get a chance to lead us into some exciting conversations, some storytelling. And as people of faith, we know that we learn not so much by reading the stories, but by hearing the stories and being encouraged by the work and the journeys that others have taken. I do want to lift up a couple of the facts around Catholic education in connection with the Department of Education. Our administration has spotlighted organizations such as Cristo Rey Network, and the founder is receiving an award today. We've also sponsored a number of the Cristo Rey interns at the Department of Education, one from Don Bosco, Cristo Rey High School in Tacoma Park. We have with us today, Marie, would you stand? Marie Anderson is with us today. As I've had the pleasure of learning more about the Catholic schools education program through our Office of Non-Public Education at the Department of Education, I've come to recognize that 30% of the total Catholic enrollment is made up from young people, people of color, from minority communities, and that extraordinary efforts have been made to reach people, whether they're Catholic by faith or not, but they need the access to quality education. And so we celebrate that. We celebrate your commitment to serving the underserved and sometimes the unserved and unrecognized in our communities. For the 2011-2012 school year, the Department of Education named 49 private schools as Blue Ribbon schools and recognized those schools recently at a gathering in Washington, D.C. 46 of the 49 are Catholic schools. One of the messages that resonated for me in the President's State of the Union address last night was the need to continue to increase the professionalization of our teachers and the opportunities for teachers to teach. And we have a Teacher Ambassador Fellows program, and we hope that you will encourage people to sign up and become a part of that program as we aggressively recruit and work to retain teachers who are concerned about helping us to uphold the highest possible standard of educational excellence. And so with that, those are my opening remarks, and now I'm going to turn to our champions for today. And we've asked each of them in a storytelling fashion to respond to some questions. And if they really are off-put by the question that I ask, they're smart enough that they'll figure out how to say what they want to say and leave a message that will make you be glad that you heard them speak. They have previously been introduced, so I will simply introduce them by name and title and then direct a question. So first we're going to hear from Reverend John P. Foley of Chicago. He's the Chief Mission Officer and Chair Emeritus of Cristo Rey Network. And here's your question. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to launch Cristo Rey and in Chicago, and what's one of the most critical lessons that you've learned as you've been involved in that work?
Thank you very much. Those were easy questions.
I know they
I
would
love
be.
it. I love it. So first of all, thanks to the White House for the invitation to be here this afternoon, and congratulations to the fellow champions of Catholic education. What an honor to be in this program with you. Cristo Rey began. What inspired us? What inspired us was how much talent was going to waste. What inspired us was that there's a tremendous need for people from the center city not getting a chance, not getting an opportunity to get a legitimate college prep. When I say legitimate, I mean something that will really help them in college, something that will really bring them up to par so that they can go to college. So that was the inspiration that got us going. And the biggest problem is easy too, because how do you do that in the inner city when you got to pay for it? And the truth of the whole Cristo Rey model is that we asked a consultant, we hired somebody and said, give us some ideas on how to fund a school where you don't have the resources to pay for it. By the way, you have to be needy to come to a Cristo Rey school. We have a cutoff an economic cutoff that you can't be above that and come to our school. So we have a saying, if you can afford to pay for it, then you can't come. So our schools, we hired the consultant, and he came back. I'd love to say this was my idea, but he came back after about a couple of weeks, and he said, what if every student had a job? So that was the creation of the Cristo Rey model. Our schools are two things. Our schools are schools, and they are also temporary employment agencies. All the young people in our schools are both our students and our employees. And they, by working 5 days a month, they earn, at full employment, they will cover 60 to 70% of the cost of their private college prep education. Last year, we have 24 schools now. This thing began in one school. We weren't sure at all it was going to make it for one school. Well, after a couple of years, we said, this is going better than we ever thought. Let's repeat this throughout the country. Until today, we have 24, and we're going for a few more. 24 schools throughout the country. So we have almost 7,000 students, and they are, but last year, in the 6,500 students last year, they made $32 million for their own education. Wow. So that's their. We're applauding Marie, and we're applauding all these young people that go to our school. Our schools are, the Cristo Rey schools are 50% Latino, 40% African American, and the rest in there too. So, but we're talent being wasted. That's what motivated us, and that's what made us want to get going. The whole idea is to provide access, get kids to go to school, get kids prepared to go to college. Last year, those who graduated in June of 2011, and went to college in September of 2011, 84% of our students went into college. Amen. And at that same year, those who were already in freshman year passed on to second year in college, 89%. So there's something about the work program. We have discovered in the work program something much bigger than we ever anticipated. It's an introduction to the real world, and it's a get up and go. It's self-confidence, and I think my time is up.
And we know Father could talk to us about that all day. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this wonderful? Okay, so if I dare do a soundbite, the takeaway is that you got expert advice, and you made serious investment in education, and it's continuing to happen. So we thank you. We're going to get back to you with another question, I hope. Next to me is Sister Jenny Jones, and she's a sister of the Holy Family. She's an educator, and she joins us from Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana. Yes. And so the question I have for you is, as we thank you for being here, you've been in education a long time.
Yes, I have.
A long time. What keeps you there, and what makes you feel that Catholic education is important? And what makes a good Catholic school?
Well, let me start with your last question.
Okay.
A good Catholic school believes that all children can learn. Academics and excellence are behind us. We believe in high test scores and encouraging children to do their best. Now you might say that's just what all schools do. What makes Catholic education just that bit different is that Christ is the center of all that we do in education. We teach our children morals, and we share our values with them, and encouraging them to do the best that they can and to use the talents that God created them to use. Catholic education did play an important role in New Orleans after Katrina, 2005, because with all of the surprise and not knowing where we were, we knew that it was important to be a light and a beacon to our students and our parents in the Archdiocese of New Orleans. It was a tremendous privilege for me to join our Archbishop and our Archdiocese to come back and help rebuild our Catholic schools. I'm principal at St. Mary's Academy, which is owned by the Sisters of the Holy Family and is 145 years old. Prior to Katrina, we were an all-girls Catholic high school, college preparatory, grades 6 through 12. After Katrina, not only did we know that we had to come back because our children are poor and powerless, and we knew that we had to come back for them. We knew that we had to rebuild our school on the same property that was slated to be green space because it was in a flood area. And we knew that it was important for these girls that we would be back as a beacon of hope. The good news is that we were able to come back, and with the support of our archdiocese and that of the Sisters of the Holy Family, not only have we rebuilt our high school 6th through 12th for all girls, we also took in ages 3 through 5th grade, and we let that continue to be co-ed because there were so few schools for them to go to at the time. So while we enjoy and praise God for our beautiful new facility, we are now looking forward to rebuilding another facility for our elementary children.
Well, sounds like she's going to be busy for a long time still, don't you think? So I think that you said something simple yet profound when you reminded us that all of us should think that and believe that every child can learn. But creating an environment that's based on a system of values and a system of concern for every child enhances the opportunity for each of those children to find success. And so we thank you for your personal commitment to it. And can't you just feel it even when she talks? Doesn't she just exude that kind of outlook that's hopeful and would make a child want to make her happy that they were doing a good job? Why don't you give her another hand?
Thank you.
I had teachers like that, and I just wanted my teacher to think that I was doing what he or she wanted me to do. That was important to me. So our teachers are important role models in our community, and our faith leaders are important role models. And sometimes we underestimate how much it means for us to just look at a child and say, honey, I know you can do it. Just keep on pushing. And I feel like this is a table of people who represent that kind of energy. And I'm really happy that we have an intergenerational conversation going on up here today as I introduce you to Bertha. Bertha Castaneda is a senior at Archbishop Carroll High School. I think it must be some Archbishop people back there. I see a whole lot of hands going up in the air. And Archbishop Carroll is right here in the nation's capital. And so we're going to ask her to be a marketer today. If she were trying to recruit for Archbishop Carroll High School, what would be the message for why we should choose your school over another? We're your audience now. We're ready to go to high school. We're picking. Make us want to go.
Well, my name is Bertha Castaneda, and first off, I want to say it's a pleasure to be here in front of everyone. And the reason I would choose Carroll beside any other high school is because Carroll has challenged me as a person and made me the person I am today. Because if I went to any other school, I wouldn't have faced some things that I faced in Carroll. Like in Carroll, the people, teachers, students, everyone who works there is really welcoming and opening. So whenever I need something, need help with schoolwork or with anything else, I know there's someone I can go to. And if I ever feel down or something, there's also that support from my friends. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
You're doing fine.
Well, Carroll also has an IB program, which challenges students to excel in their academics. And let me start from the beginning. At first, I didn't want to go to Carroll because it was not my first choice, but I'm happy I stuck with it because if I went to any other school, I wouldn't have gotten the same experience because I challenged myself academically, socially, and mentally. by involving myself with a lot of things. At my school, I'm very involved. I'm a peer minister, an Augustinian scholar. I play volleyball, played basketball last year, and I am the manager for this year. I'm the manager for lacrosse. I'm also stage crew, and the list keeps going on and on. But in Carroll, they have made me feel open to being involved. Like, no one has ever said, oh, why, Bertha, why are you so involved? Like, take a break. Like, everyone encouraged me to do better. So that's the reason I would choose to go to Carroll. Thank you.
Now, I know we have some online folk out there from Carroll who are going to figure out how to cut that out and post it on Carroll's website and send it to parents who are looking for a place for their young people to go. And although you give the school a lot of credit, Bertha, we give you a lot of credit for having the personal initiative and drive to take advantage of opportunities that have been presented to you. And we encourage you to keep doing that and be an excellent role model for other young people across our nation. Let's thank Bertha again. Well, Annette Mickey Lentz is Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, and I didn't get a chance to tell her this. I'm from Indianapolis. All of my family's still in Indianapolis. So just because she's from Indianapolis, I know she's going to have some good stuff to share with us. But we want you to tell us about the Mother Theodore Catholic Academies and the kind of innovation that's going on in those schools.
Thank you.
Glad you're with
Again,
us.
it's a pleasure to be here. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and love being next to youth as well. 50 years later, it kind of reminds me of long times ago. And Father Foley, with regard to the Crystal Ray School, obviously I heard his pitch and we have a school. So I guess before I focus just on the academies, I would just say that I'm sort of this type of person over time in education that when I would teach, and especially as a principal, I was the person who went to all the seminars, got ideas, never really had maybe my own, and then came back and decided, we're going to do this. And I know when that happened, my teachers would always say, where is she going again? Now what are we going to have to do? I'm sure you can all identify with that. But one of those times was with regard to just looking at consortiums and how can we do business better in urban education. How can we really become more effective? How can we become efficient? How can we work together so that our children and our families that we serve in the center of the city, in the urban area, are not forgotten, are learning, are treated equally, and are allowed to stay in our schools until they finish and graduate from high school. That was a challenge, and just like all of you, I am sure, here at the table and beyond, we know funding is difficult, and yet we can't always just be about the business of things. We have to look at what is best for the kids and find a way to make it work. So I heard just in general, new models, consortiums, nothing was really carved in stone. Came back and really got the challenge in front of our archdiocese, which is a wonderful Catholic community who wants to serve, and said, let's try to do something different for our families. We did. We moved forward. It wasn't simple. It still is not simple, but it was a wonderful opportunity to allow our schools to remain anchors in their neighborhood. We took 6 of our center city schools. We put them together in a consortium, individual school buildings, but shared leadership, shared resources, shared whatever we could do, shared maintenance, transportation, and the like. Everything that would help them move forward so that we could hold on to them. And then we, as an archdiocese, manage them. They're diocesan schools. And so we have grown. This is 5 to 6 years ago. It's still a work in progress. We still continue to be challenged by the demographics. We just were able to get vouchers in the state of Indiana this past year. We had tax credits before that. I believe that's just going to really open wonderful things for these children and these families. It's already shown in this past year in the Archdiocese, since July's inception of the voucher program, 2,000 additional children in our schools, many of those in Center City. So we have embraced the challenge. We have great support, as I said, by the business community, our clergy, our team in the Catholic Center that focuses on our education. You know, you cannot do it alone, and these families appreciate everything you do for them every minute in which you do them, and there are no regrets. So one of the things that I am most proud, even though, as I said, it's still getting there, and will we ever arrive? Yes, we will. When? I do not know. But in my 55th year, maybe, I don't know. But it has certainly been good for our people.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So she said to us that we have to embrace the challenges, be willing to change, and then share the responsibility, have the consortium, have people working together, because all of us working together can always do more than when we're trying to hang out there by ourselves. So we thank you for sharing your experience, and we pray that God will continue to give you strength to be the leader that you've been in Indianapolis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we have Peter Krebs, who is the president of All Hallows High School in Bronx, New York. And we're seeing your name on one side, and we're seeing All Hallows on one side, and then underneath that, we're seeing the word innovation. What kind of key innovations have you implemented to help embody the work of education and create some stability in the education community for the Bronx, New York?
Again, thank you. And
Cutting edge.
well, I don't know
All right.
cutting edge, but and thanks also to the NCEA, Dr. Karen Ristow and Robert Bamonte for nominating me for this. So it really is good to be here and to tell the story, how much their innovations, I'll leave up to other people to decide. All Hallows High School was founded in 1909, so we are around a while, but we were founded in 4 brownstones in Harlem. Unfortunately, we don't own any of those brownstones anymore. So it's still a struggle, but we moved in 1920, they moved, I wasn't there then. In 1929, they found what was described as a beautiful piece of property up in the country, and that's where we are now. It's also known as the South Bronx. Where we are is the 16th Congressional District, and that's the poorest congressional district in the entire United States. The average family income in our district is $19,311. We charge $5,700 in tuition, and if I were to get 100% of that, I'd be fairly okay, but we don't get that. 78% of our families need help with the tuition, and that's mainly from alumni. What we have provided them, and again, whether it's innovation or not, is a structure and a stability that in many situations in our area is not known. For instance, I'm there, well, a total now of 18 years at All Hallows. The principal is there a total of, well, 16 years as principal, but really he started school there as a freshman in 1969. So we're not going to count how long ago that was, but we also have 14 of our faculty members who are former students at the school. So we provide a solid structure that in our environment is really important. And we start every day by welcoming every kid as he comes to the school with a handshake, a greeting, you know, a good morning, welcome to school, how are you? And we do the same thing in the afternoon. That provides us not only a welcoming atmosphere, and it is a welcoming atmosphere, and you can feel it when you come into the building, but it provides us with knowledge of what's going on with every student. And that leads to what we do, and we do a lot with counseling and guidance. We have a group counseling session. We knew we had to do this because there's a lot of problems in the inner city, and how our kids cope with those problems, both at home and in the streets. We knew that had to be taken care of so that they were going to learn, and we do that. And we not only expect them to learn, we'll tell them that there's 4-letter words that are never allowed in our school. And that's like fail, won't, can't. And we expect them all to do their work. We'll work with them so that we regularly, an off year for us would be to have only 98% go to college. This year is our 100th graduating class, and we've challenged them, and they're a great class. We expect them to have 100% go to college, and good colleges. We have, in fact, we want the college kids to come back and talk to the current students about what they do and what they should prepare. So last year we had 9 of our kids who were studying at Columbia. They came back and they spoke to the current seniors. A big part of, and I don't know that it's certainly not innovative, but it's an important part in Catholic education, is the spirituality. We leave no doubt that we are a Catholic school. The school was founded by, at that time, remember 1909 in Harlem, but it was the Irish Christian Brothers. Now they're just Christian Brothers. But we do follow the spirit of Brother Edmund Rice. I think you would find every kid in our school would know who he is and what the spirituality of Christian Brothers School is supposed to be about. To make all of this work, and again, whether it's innovation or not, is the alumni involvement in the school. We could not do it financially without that. As I said, tuition is $5,700. That's out of a course. We're managing to get costs down to maybe $7,200, and that difference is primarily to alumni who we use the phrase with them, you come to the school first and you learn, and then you go out and earn, and then you return yourself and what you've earned.
All right, those are my buzzwords from his presentations: learn, earn, and return. Can we go for that? And I think also when you talk about whether or not it's innovation, it is basic. And sometimes we forget the basic, the little things that matter to set the tone for the day, to make everybody feel welcome, to know that people are being heard, that we're just not numbers, that they're human beings that are in our hands and in our charge. And I think if we just think about our personal experience, the context that when people can look us in the eye and they can talk to us and they're willing to touch us, it does help encourage our young people to reach for higher heights. We have about 4 minutes left, and so what I want to do is just put out one little quick question, and I'm going to just give each of you a chance to give a 10-second, 25-second response. If this was the only thing that you could say to this audience today that would make them willing to be even more engaged in educational success for our children, what would be your last word? This is a session about good news. We hear all the bad stuff all the time. Today, we want to hear some good news. What can we do to help?
I love it. Dream, innovate. Don't be afraid to take a chance. The hero of our story is the man who told us to go ahead and start the school, even though we didn't know it was going to work or not. He was going to look pretty silly if it didn't work. Nobody knew me, so I would get away. But
Dream. Okay, Sister Jenny.
Well, I would say when you pass on your values, your morals, and your love of God to children, you've given them the tools that they need to be strong citizens and useful to society.
Okay.
I'd certainly say create, have faith, not only in yourself, but those with whom you lead, your youth, and realize that they are hope for the world, the church ahead.
All right.
I would say encouragement. Never, always encourage the youth in our community because they need your support. That's how I'm in this spot right now, because I had a lot of encouragement. So.
Be proactive, be an agent for change. We're up here as champions of change, but it's very important, become involved, be an agent for change, make things happen. become involved. That's what I do with alumni all the time, and our alumni are certainly the demographics and ethnicity has changed over the years, but once they all get together and become involved with each other, they're all, in our case, All Hallows people, and they'll all make it better.
Amen. Amen. And a closing thought I'd like to leave with you. I'm not sure who quoted it in the beginning, but I've been quoting it or misquoting it for years, that life is like a tiny minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon you, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to you to use it. Give account if you abuse it. It's just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. What will you do with the minute you have to help be the change you want to see? Thank you for the opportunity to share with you this afternoon.
Another thank you to the first panel and to Brenda while we get repositioned here for the second panel.
Thank you, Brenda.
Now, we're excited to begin our second panel in just a second. I'm going to reintroduce Alexia Kelly here, who's going to be leading the second panel. Alexia is a senior policy advisor in the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. So Alexia will lead the second panel, and we're looking forward to a great discussion.
Okay, we're getting set up here. Hi again, everybody. I'm really pleased to introduce our second panel of Champions for Change in Catholic Education. We look forward to hearing their reflections on the innovation and creativity that they've brought, the many contributions they've made to Catholic education and Catholic schools. So I'll, just like Brenda, I will introduce them. You've already heard about their great work. I'll introduce each of them and ask a question, and then we hope to have time for one extra question. So starting with Sister Rosa Maria Ruiz. She is the superintendent of Catholic schools for the Diocese of Tucson in Arizona. So Sister Ruiz, of all the many creative innovations and best practices that you have implemented over your career, what do you think has been the most important factor in addressing the unique challenges and opportunities facing the Catholic schools in Tucson? And what is the secret of your success?
Well, I'll say children. You know, if we adults are in the job that we have, it's because of children. And we better do a good job taking care of them. So that's when I can see that if adults need more preparation, professional development, especially in religious education, because we have Catholic schools. And remember, I'm coming from Arizona, no Catholic colleges. So we have to work harder to make sure that our teachers are prepared to teach and take care of our children. And every time I see the needs of children in any way, then I know that there's a need for staff development somewhere. And I want to share something else here. I know it's not part of the question, but I want to tell you that we do have a Cristo Rey school in Tucson that has made a difference on the south side of Tucson, which is about 90% Hispanic, and about 85% of them are in the federal free and reduced lunch program. And now we are very proud that this year, for the first time, some of them will be finishing college. The San Miguel, Cristo Rey High School, and run by the Christian Brothers, LaSallian Christian Brothers. So we're very proud of them. And now that I have a chance to talk, I want to share with you our partnership with Notre Dame. Besides the ACE teachers, the leadership program, curriculum, and lots of help that we get from them, we have a pilot study. It's a Notre Dame ACE Academies. And they're taking care of 3 of our needy schools on the south side of Tucson. And you should see, this is the 2nd year, and it really is making a difference. Those children are so proud to come to school, and we have the families and the teachers and everybody is proud. They are so proud to be members of the ACE Academies. And we are getting those children ready to attend the Cristo Rey School and to do a good job in the future.
Thank you so much. Let's give Sister Ruiz a hand. And now Reverend Charles Curry. SJ is the past president of the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities. Father Curry, tell us a little bit about the Jesuit Commons, a new initiative you've recently launched, and how it relates to Jesuit universities and colleges, and how are you inspired to start this effort?
Thank you, Alexi. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be here and to be with this great group. And I want to acknowledge the folks who helped me do whatever I was able to do at the AJCU. They're all sitting up here in the front row. Very much aware of whatever I was able to do is because of them. The Jesuit Commons is a good example of a point that Mickey was making about collaboration. It's an extraordinary collaborative effort, and I've just been trying to make sure it happens. There's so many people involved. The idea came initially about 5 years ago at a meeting in Denver when a Jesuit from Australia was describing what he was doing with refugees in a refugee camp in Thailand, Burmese refugees in a refugee camp in Thailand. And immediately this group of about 200 or 300 people had a real serendipitous moment. This is an extraordinary opportunity to take this idea and run with it. The idea of a commons to emphasize the fact that it's not an effort to help somebody, but to do something together with folks. And what it involves is an attempt to relate all of the educational resources Jesuits have around the world with the marginalized populations Jesuits serve around the world. And the most concrete expression of that right now are 2 refugee camps, one in Malawi, one in Kenya, where we're doing this with the Jesuit Refugee Service. They have an extraordinary educational effort around the world in primary and secondary education. This is the first time they've been able to do higher education. This meant building a building, bringing in electricity, bringing in the internet, getting 40 computers, and today there are 80 refugees taking online courses from about a dozen AJCU schools here in the United States. And an extraordinary experience. I was over at this camp in Kenya just a couple of months ago. 80 refugees, extraordinary conditions of deprivation, and yet they come to class every day. Some of them walk 2 hours to get there. One fellow, paralyzed from the waist down, comes in a combination wheelchair, bicycle, a mile each morning. He has little pads on the back of his wheels. One has Jesuit Commons, the other has no pain, no gain. So it's an extraordinary experience of collaboration, worldwide collaboration. We're looking now to expand that in another 5 or 6 refugee camps. And the experience of the volunteer faculty doing this has been extraordinary, the relationship they develop with the refugees. And so it's been a great experience just to see this idea develop. And as Mickey said, it's all because of collaboration.
Thanks so much, Father Curry. Let's give Father Curry a round of applause. And now, Yvonne Schwab, who's the principal of St. James the Less Catholic School in Columbus, Ohio. Mrs. Schwab, you helped St. James the Less Catholic School become a model school doubling the population, raising test scores, engaging students in service, and embodying inclusion and diversity. What are you most passionate about communicating to others about this model and about your experience?
Well, first I'd like to say that I'm very honored to be here, and I'd like to thank the NCEA for nominating me. But if I talk about what I'm most passionate about, like sister, I'd have to say it's the children. It's from the children that we get our strength and that we get our drive and our desire to make things better for them. I'm also blessed with the most supportive staff that anyone could ever ask for. So when I come up with some crazy idea, they don't go, no way. They say, we'll try it. Whatever it is, we'll try it. To talk about our children, they come from all over: Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Russia, Nigeria, Mexico, El Salvador, and all over the United States. They have all different faiths, different income levels, different family structures. We're like a window to the world. I guess we're our own little United Nations there, you know. But that gift of diversity allows us to relate to all of our children as in the way that Christ would want. We believe that we are a second home to our children. Whatever they need, we're going to figure out a way to get it. I had one 8th grader say to me before he graduated, "It might sound weird for me to say this, Mrs. Schwab, but I really love to come to school because when I come here, there's no chaos. I know you'll be here. I know the teachers will be here. I'll have class. I'll get lunch. And if I need something, somebody's going to help me do it." That's the kind of hope that we hope to give to everyone. That's what Catholic schools do. That's what our faith calls us to do. Our population is 50% ESL, 80% are below poverty level, and yet for the last 2 years, we've met average yearly progress in every subject, in every grade level. Thank you. When I called to the downtown office there, I was like, okay, what are you going to do now? Because we don't do anything the normal way. Our homerooms are community homerooms, so our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are all in homeroom together. And that way, they can mentor each other. The 6th graders can go to the older students for help. And they all learn to be with each other and be part of a family. We have saint families at our school. Each one is named after a saint, and there are members of each grade level in that saint family. And we meet with them every month. We go to Mass together. We do activities together, so the kids all get to know each other. We had trouble with our children doing their homework. Some because they weren't able to do it. Some, no English is spoken at home, so they weren't getting any help. So he started something called hassle-free homework every morning for the first half an hour of school. You have to have tried your homework, though. You can't just say. So when they come to school, if they don't understand their homework, we're there to give them help. We offer, if they need coats, hats, food, rides home, we figure all of it out for them. That's what it means to be a family. All of our students take Spanish. So most of our Spanish speakers help the English speakers learn, and our English speakers help the Spanish speakers in English class. And they all take American Sign Language. So we're a trilingual school. I'm very proud of that. We have instituted authentic service learning. This is really a program that I'm very proud of because it comes from the children. They study issues, and they find actions that they can take to help with those issues. For example, when the tsunami hit, they studied all about the tsunami and what happened. And they did fundraising and different activities. They taught the school about what the tsunami was and its effects. We raised enough money to help a fishing village get a new boat so they could start their village. We also helped with the Rafiki project in Africa. We helped to furnish a dorm for children whose parents died of AIDS-related. Then when the economy took a little turn, our children said, well, it's great to be helping everybody, but we have children really close to home that need help. And realize that our children aren't rich, but they really know how to help other people. So when they saw the economy, they said, we need to help closer to home. So we partnered up with a group called the Run the Race, which provides an aftercare program for children on the west side of town who don't have anywhere to go. We also helped a group called Kid Again, which helps terminally ill children. So that way our children learn how to be global citizens as well as helping close to home and what they can do to help other people. I could tell you stories all day about the kids, but I know I'm probably going to run out of time, so I just have to get 2 in, okay? With Martin Luther King Day last week, and we all know Martin Luther King's speech, I have a dream. Well, Martin Luther had a dream, but so does Martin Salcedo. And Martin Salcedo's dream is to go to school, to be able to go to college, and not have to fear or worry about what's going to happen to his children, to his parents, to his parents. They don't need to live in fear every day. And my last story is about Kenny, and it's my favorite, and I'll try to do this without tearing up, but Kenny came to us in 7th grade, way below grade level. He had the misfortune of seeing his father lost to violence right in front of him. He worked, and then he went to high school. In his sophomore year of high school, he ran all the way across the football field to hug me to say, I passed all parts of the Ohio graduation test. I can think about college. And I'm proud to say that Kenny entered college in the fall of this year.
Oh. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sharing that. And now, Joseph Womack, who is the Executive Director of the Fulcrum Foundation in Seattle, Washington. Welcome, and thank you for making the long trip.
Thank you.
So our question for you, Joe, is what do you find most critical and also most satisfying in your work at the Fulcrum Foundation? And how has your experience with ACE, the Alliance for Catholic Education, at Notre Dame influenced your work today?
Good questions. First, I want to also say thank you to the White House for shining a light on the excellence of Catholic schools and the important role that they play in society. I also, secondly, want to thank whoever organized the event by giving me a chance at the last word. Although Father Curry has promised me he's been working very hard on his rebuttal to whatever I have to say. So I'll save some time for that. The Fulcrum Foundation, for which I've had the privilege of serving as the executive director for the last 8 years, is an amazing organization. It's hard to boil down into just a couple things what is most critical and most satisfying about the work that we're doing, but I think that it could be summed up by the first 8 champions that we've heard from today, because they're working with kids, many of them are, or they are themselves, in inspiring stories in education. I, in my job, have the privilege of championing people that work in Catholic education, but I'm not directly working with kids myself. But what is most critical, I think I would say, is understanding first that Catholic schools work with kids. And it's not a conversation that we're having about Catholic education, period. It's about education. It's about the lives of children and the difference that good schools make in those lives and the platform that Catholic schools can be to a better life. And I have seen firsthand over and over again, thousands of times, in the stories of the lives of the kids that we send to school at the Fulcrum Foundation, their lives are very satisfying. And so that we need to understand that Catholic schools work. We could talk a long time about what makes Catholic schools work, but I think that we've heard a fair amount about that today. What I would say, though, is that the other thing that we need to critically understand isn't just that they work, but that there are millions of empty desks in Catholic schools all over this country. So for me, when I ask myself the question, what makes a school a great school? To me, the answer to that question is not what percentage of the kids got what scores on what tests, or what percentage of what kids went to those schools and then went on to college. To me, what defines a great school is the difference in the life of the kids that go to that school. If you take that school away, what does that do to the community? If you insert the school into the community, what does that do? And so to me, Catholic schools are some of the best schools that ever were, because we could see over and over again that when you insert a Catholic school into the life of a child at risk, the outcomes are phenomenal. We heard about it. 98, 99% of these kids go on to college. Kids that come from backgrounds that usually maybe 20, 30, 40% would go on to college. And so we need to preserve these institutions because of the difference they're making. If they didn't work, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So it's critical that we understand that they work and that we need to do something to preserve them. There are millions of empty desks. There are families that would fill them. And what we need to do is we need to leverage new ways of getting those desks filled because it's not as easy as it used to be. And I commend the role that Cristo Rey has played in finding an innovative way to fund schools that serve at-risk kids. I think that that's a huge component of this. My organization, the Fulcrum Foundation, is a funding organization. So we leverage resources, we raise money, and we give it out where it's needed the most. And it's been very satisfying to do that, and it's extremely satisfying to see the outcomes of those investments. They're what we do it for. Really quickly on the ACE program, the ACE program is an amazing teaching and service program run by the University of Notre Dame. It's part of a consortium of programs. The University of Portland has one called PACE. I think there are 13 of them. I'm a graduate of it. You give up 2 years of teaching in a Catholic school that they send you to. You live in a community. And at the end of the process, you have 2 years of teaching experience in a Catholic school and a master's degree to show for it. I also have that program to thank for introducing me to my beautiful wife, as well as ruining any plans I had for a corporate career. So I can't separate it from anything that I do.
Give Joe a round of applause. Thanks so much, Joe. Both Joe and Sister Reese mentioned the ACE program, so we're excited that that model, ACE, and then programs like it, that you've lifted that up. So building on what several of you have mentioned about engagement of community and also the needs in the community and the schools for staff development, for resources, et cetera, what do you think are some ways that we can motivate all Americans, particularly in underserved communities, and especially in community and faith-based groups, to become more active in education and in their local school?
Well, I think one of the things we need to do is to get them into our schools more so they can see what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And on that note, I invite any of you to come to Columbus, Ohio, and I would love for you to come see the school.
Thanks. Other thoughts on that question?
I think just the experience of seeing both the need for education and the response of people getting it. I mean, my experience with the refugees in that camp in Kenya, to see the appreciation of these folks who have literally nothing, to see how much they appreciate. This fellow in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down, his big concern now is how can he pay back for the privilege he's receiving of an education? To be exposed to that kind of appreciation and also the need for the education, I think that really encourages you to get involved.
You know, I think about, of course, I've been in education for many, many years. 50 years as a sister, 50 years in education. I started teaching 3 days after my profession. Now, but, you know, what I see the children coming in pre-kinder, and they grow up and they give you lots of headaches, and you try to help them, and you think you're going to lose them, and you meet with parents and teachers, and then you see them finish high school and graduating and going into college. If people can see that it's worth it. It's worth to spend all this time helping them and finding ways of helping them and see what happens at the end, because they will be the future leaders of our church and our society, and we better do a good job.
Thank you. Joe.
I just want to sort of build off that and just say that I think the real champions are sort of the millions of anonymous parents and families and students out there. What they do through their lives in choosing what's best for their children, I think it dispels a myth that parents from certain backgrounds, from certain walks of life, don't want what's best for their kids, that they don't value an education. I think that that's a falsehood, that and the champions, the true champions out there are dispelling that every day by fighting for what's best for their children and making choices that they can make for their children. And I think our responsibility is to rise up to that level of commitment that those families have for their kids. By if some family wants something, we need to provide it for them. If that's best for the kids, we need to provide it. And so to me, it's just rising up to that, to the inspiring sacrifices that parents make for their kids every day.
Thank you, Joe. So one more question for the whole panel. What would you say, or describe maybe one of the greatest challenge you've faced in your work in Catholic education, and how did you overcome it?
Well, the first year that we have a large Spanish-speaking population, and I don't speak Spanish. So the first year that we had Spanish-speaking students coming to our school, of course, the children can speak English, but the parents cannot. That was a big challenge, and we were all like, oh, what are we going to do? So the whole staff took a program called Command Spanish, where we learned some Spanish phrases. Now, I don't speak a lot of Spanish, but I can say, "Puedo ayudarle?" How can I help you? Now, when they answer me, I don't know what they're saying, but at least I said it. So that was one of our big challenges. Now we have everything in 2 languages. You get paper home, English on the front, Spanish on the back. You know, everything is bilingual at our school. And that was a big challenge and a big, I think it also speaks to the population that were already at our school, that they were open, welcoming, and inviting. We were an immigrant population of Italians as we started as a parish, and we're headed toward an immigrant population again. So I think that speaks to not only the students coming in, but the students that were there.
You know, our greatest challenge in the diocese is to try to build up this Catholic identity. The teachers are great and they want to help, but their religious education ended up when they received the sacrament of confirmation. And remember, like I said before, we have no Catholic colleges in Arizona. So that's our greatest challenge, to make sure. And now they are supposed to have level 1 religious certification, but we need to provide the classes, and we need to help them. And that's what we are trying to do. But that's what I feel is our greatest challenge. That's besides money, of course.
Yeah. Thank you, Sister Reese. Father Curry?
When I first became president of a college, it was in a survival mode, and we weren't sure we were going to open day by day. I think the biggest challenge was to get people to believe in the place. And I'm a firm believer myself in anything can work if you believe enough in it and you're willing to work at it. And that was, I think, the biggest challenge, to get enough people to believe in the place and be willing to work. And it still exists today.
It would be easy to say that there's not enough money. But I do think that the money challenges of our Catholic schools are a symptom of, I think, more important underlying issues that represent the larger challenges. And I think that the inspiring stories of some of our champions here today, the things that they've done to do things in a new way in Catholic education, tell a story of, I think, what the biggest challenges are. That we know Catholic schools work with kids, but they don't necessarily work financially in all neighborhoods anymore. And so we have to find new ways of providing that type of education that's always worked, and getting people to excitedly embrace a new idea, to kind of get out of a risk aversion. It takes a lot of convincing sometimes. And I think we need new initiatives. And getting people on board with those new initiatives, even though they might not work, I think is a huge challenge in Catholic education.
Thank you so much. So let's give our panel a final round of applause. Congratulations to each of you. Thank you for your leadership and your service, your contributions to Catholic education and your broader communities. You really embody the fundamental American value of service. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for being here. So we're going to move into some closing remarks. Okay, thanks, Aaron. So I think we'll go off the stage. Oh, you can stay. So we want to congratulate our champions today. We know that all of you participating today, and I certainly have been inspired and encouraged by the amazing work of the champions that we're honoring. On behalf of our office, the Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, and our entire White House team that worked on this project, we want to thank all of our guests for participating today, both here in person and virtually. It means a lot to have you all here as leaders and innovators in Catholic education to celebrate these champions among you and among us. I want to welcome now to the stage Maureen Dowling, who is the Director of the Office of Non-Public Education in the Department of Education. Maureen and her team have been great partners in helping us work with NCEA and help put this event together. And she's going to give a little bit of information about her office at the Department of Education, which can really be an open door and a resource for you in the work that you're doing. So thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, Alexia, and greetings to everyone, and to the champions of change. What elegant and life-empowering contributions you have made, not only to Catholic education, but to our nation. It has been humbling to sit here today and such a privilege to listen to your stories. Thank you for sharing them with us today. As Alexia mentioned, I'm the director of the Office of Non-Public Education at the U.S. Department of Education. And I'm so pleased to be joined here today with my staff, Amy Huber there, who's playing the champion tech today, and Deborah Southwell, and Jerry Kyle, Brian Martin, and Pamela Allen. It's been a pleasure working with Alexia and Aaron to help facilitate this. And we so appreciate all of you who got in that security information by the deadline to the Office of Non-Public Education. We're part of a larger office called the Office of Innovation and Improvement, and the Assistant Deputy Secretary of that office is Jim Shelton. He's sorry he couldn't be here today to congratulate the champions personally, but he sends his appreciation for your commitment and your leadership. Just in a nutshell, the Office of Non-Public Education is a liaison office to all the non-public schools across the United States, independent schools, faith-based schools, and home schools. I'm sorry to say we don't get any money from Congress, so we have no money to give you directly. However, as many of you in this audience know, there are some wonderful federal education benefits and services that are available to your students through programs that are administered by the department. And I know some of you here in this audience, your students and teachers participate in those programs, such as Title I and Title IIA professional development. So our responsibility as the liaison office is to help maximize the participation of private school students in federal education programs. Within the department, we advocate on behalf of non-public school students. We scrutinize every letter that comes across, every policy, every regulation, every piece of guidance to ensure maximum participation of your students, but also to make sure the autonomy and independence of private schools is maintained. In fact, in our work, and you have a wonderful team, as I mentioned earlier, that is working on behalf of Catholic school students and teachers and other private school students across the U.S. We want to be, as we say in text language, your FFB, which stands for your favorite federal bureaucrat. And that's what we seek to be on your behalf. I'm so delighted that this precedes National Catholic Schools Week next week, and it's one of the other activities that we do as the liaison is we correspond and communicate on a regular basis with the national private school organizations like the National Catholic Educational Association, NCEA, that is here represented today, and a host of other private school organizations and homeschool organizations also. Now, I was just thinking, I'm a former Catholic school teacher and principal, so to make this a genuine Catholic education event, there's one last thing I'm going to need to do here, Alexia. We always give homework, always. So here's the homework for the champions and also all of us here in this audience today. On behalf of the children and the elegant stories you've shared with us. On behalf of the children, I'm going to encourage you and ask you to say this with me. I'll say it first, and then you can join me. And I hope it'll be, as Bertha said, an encouraging thing for everyone. It goes like this: good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. Will you join me? Good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. Again, champions, congratulations. Thanks for your inspiration today.
Just wrap up. Thanks so much, Maureen. What? We're going to take a picture. Okay, we're going to take a picture in just a minute. But I just wanted to leave with a few more points about follow-up. As Maureen mentioned, Catholic Schools Week is next week, and we're really excited about the opportunity for this event to help shine a light on next week. So we encourage you to tweet about today, email your friends about today. This live stream will be up on the White House YouTube channel following this event, so you can share that link. And the photos and the biographies of our wonderful champions will be up online, too, at whitehouse.gov/champions. So whitehouse.gov/champions. So encourage you to link to that site and spread the word about the champions to inspire and encourage others in their communities, and just share the good news of this, their incredible work. I also wanted to just share contact information for our White House Office for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, and just recognize Jerry Flavin, who's with our SBA Faith-Based Office, Small Business Administration, Roxana Barrias, who's with our USDA Faith Center. She works on the reduced price lunch and summer food programs, all which are available to Catholic schools, to non-public schools. So she's someone, if you're not connected to the summer food service program or the school lunch program, Roxana is the person to talk to. And then Brenda's colleague, Ken Vidal, is here with the Education Center. So we are a network of 13 faith-based and neighborhood partnership centers at different federal agencies that can really be an open door. So if you're working with a community organization in your faith-based organization in your area, or your school is doing work in hunger, in small business startup, and they're interested in that, these folks are your open door, like Maureen is at the Department of Education and Brenda at these different federal agencies. So our website is also very easy. It's whitehouse.gov/partnerships, whitehouse.gov/partnerships. And I think you all got the toolkit, the Common Good Partnerships Toolkit guide, so that's your kind of resource there. And I think now I'm very honored to introduce our final speaker today. We're very pleased to have with us Dennis McDonough, who is the Deputy National Security Advisor and Assistant to the President, works very closely with President Obama on national security and other issues, and I know has been very inspired by his experience in Catholic schools and as a Catholic American. So thank you, Dennis.
Well, Alexia, thanks so very much. It's a real honor to be with the you Champions for Change. I'm a proud product of the Sisters of St. Joseph at St. Michael's Catholic Elementary School in Stillwater, Minnesota, and a proud graduate of St. John's University in Collegeville, where I got to know an awful lot of Benedictine brothers and obviously the sisters from St. Ben's. And then I spent some time with the Jesuits as well at Georgetown. So it depends on the crowd on who I claim, but it also depends on the crowd for who claimed me. So I will just say a couple things. I mean, I was just sitting in a meeting in a sit room that ran long, and I was reflecting that my job, perhaps as much as any of the jobs at St. John's, reflects the motto of St. Benedict of working and praying. And I'll tell you that I spend as much of my time when I'm thinking about my job and some of the very difficult things we go through and some of the very difficult decisions we tee up for the president, praying that they turn out right. And that's as true last night, for example, when the SEALs carried out this very remarkable but also very nerve-wracking operation in Somalia, as it is when we wrestle with very difficult policy decisions about assistance to countries who are struggling, like Haiti, or throughout Africa or otherwise. But it's almost every day, if not when John Brennan has given me trouble for not having clear handwriting like he claims he got from his parochial school upbringing, or to, frankly, some of the very, very difficult decisions we make around questions like use of force, just wars, dignity of all individuals. on that range, or that continuum of issues, I think about Catholic educators who throughout my life frankly gave me the opportunity that I have to work here today. I'll just close with one final story as it relates to this, which is two of my brothers who studied in Rome, and I never got to go visit them in Rome. My folks had saved up so we could, of the 11 of us, every one of us would get a chance to go visit them on their summers somewhere in Europe, and it did dawn on me a couple years ago that we got to go to fly into the cities that have the cheapest flights. I was always wondered why wouldn't my folks send me to Italy, and it turns out that those are probably more expensive flights. But anyway, I did finally get to go to Rome, and I got to go there with President Obama in the summer of 2009. And I got to ride in to St. Peter's Square in the president's limousine while the president and I talked about what Catholic education had meant to me. But as importantly for me, I got to hear what Catholic education meant to him. And by Catholic education, I don't mean when he spent that couple of school years in Indonesia with the Catholics, but rather when he worked on the south side of Chicago, funded by the Campaign for Human Development, and working with unemployed steelworkers. And so I hope when you all leave here today, you're not only reminded of how much we admire the work you do, and you not only feel proud of the fact that the President of the United States, and understanding that there's going to be times, perhaps even like today or like last Friday, when you disagree with a decision that he or his administration made. But I hope you feel proud of knowing that he was informed, and I can assure you is continually informed and continuing to be informed by his Catholic education. But I hope that you'll be reminded as well that there's a lot of people like me out there who think of you. I think of Sister Elaine and Sister Shirley, Sister Mary Mark, and a lot of the monks at St. John's who frankly made it possible for me to be here where I am today, make it possible for me to walk into the White House and work every day. And ultimately, I hope make it possible for me to make a well-rounded, well-informed, and ultimately just and dignified decision or set of recommendations to the President as he wrestles with these things. So thank you for all you do for our country. Thank you for, in particular, taking on this Champions of Change set of challenges. And please know that you have an open door here. There's a deep reservoir of goodwill, including, I just hasten to say again, on a day like today or the day like the last several days, but I'm confident that there's several people in the room, as there is a particular mom in my family or a couple of brothers in my family who aren't particularly happy with the decision. I hear from them. We should hear from you. And we welcome it. But we thank you very, very much. And thanks for giving me a couple minutes to come by.
Thank you to Dennis, to our moderators, and most importantly to all of our champions. If I can just get one more round of applause for all of our champions. And with that, our event has ended, but I hope again you all can learn more about our champions by going to www.whitehouse.gov/champions to learn more about their incredible work. So thank you again.